Hello everyone, Dr. Eames here. What I'd like to talk about this time is span of control. This concept is really about managers, and it really says what is the proper number of people who should report to any given manager? How many should they supervise? That's span of control. Let's look at some of the advantages and disadvantages between having a very broad span of control and a narrow one. Let's look at broad first. If we have a broad span of control, that means we are managing more managers than we would if we had a narrow approach. This would mean possibly fewer managers. This will help keep costs down. It also means that if you have a broad sort of span of control, you can be responsive to customers quite quickly. Um, it makes decisions faster when one person is involved and so forth. And you do get a little bit of empowerment going on where we're engaging with people, delegating tasks and so forth when we have a lot of people. The more you have to work with as a supervisor, the more opportunities and places you have where you can delegate work to get things done. The downside is if we have fewer managers, then you certainly have fewer opportunities for moving ahead yourself. And the fact that managers already have enough to do, we know that managers, the typical one is going to work 50 plus hours a week. And managers, of course, are on salary, so they don't get anything extra for all this extra hours. It does mean that if you have a broad span of control and you have lots of employees, that you probably fall into the overworked category. And so the downside is the more employees that you have to worry about their administrative side of, you have to keep records, give evaluations and assessment, you have to deal with them, plan their schedules, all of that stuff, you do have less control. You can simply, you're one person, you can do not as much as more managers would be able to do. And so you're able to apply your expertise in fewer places. You are simply busier. Now, with a narrow span of control, you really can focus on the things that you need to be done. So you do have more control, in particular by top management. More chances for advancement. There are just more positions open, more from the managerial side, definitely more managerial positions. And if you break it down into where you have a fewer amount of people, then generally those people are going to have some specialized skills or so forth that are the reason that you sort of went to that core group. So you can provide closer supervision. But of course, we don't want to become Theory X managers where we have to look over people's shoulder. So in this sense, the closer supervision would mean we are more engaging, we are working together more, and so forth. So our closer supervision is really about engaging in empowerment. But with that narrow span, we do run into less empowerment. We're just don't have as many of us. We're not able to get as many delegations of our own power done because there are a few people to choose it from, fewer, and so forth. You can only add so many new tasks to any given employee. And if you have fewer of them, you're not going to be able to do as much empowerment. It therefore could cost you more in the long run. With a lot of smaller groups, you could run into some problems with maybe your decision making is taking a little bit more time and so forth. You are so focused on your specialized areas. And of course, that downside would include being less responsive to customers. So there are some things to think about. But I would say the main thing we ought to focus on with span of control is making sure that our managers are not overworked, overburdened with too many supervisory responsibilities. And this can happen in particular with the lower level managers. Okay, folks, that's all I want to talk about this time. I'll talk to you again soon.